everyone, and welcome to the My Ray of Sunshine podcast. My name is Mayra, and I'm here to help you receive the advice you deserve. Now, if you all are here, it's probably because you want to know exactly what it means to have a healthy lifestyle and eating very healthy for your body. And what better person to ask than to ask Tiffany here, who is with me today. So welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, listeners, and hello, Myra.
We're so happy to have you, Tiffany. I can't wait for us to all learn all about you.
Awesome. Thank you. No, I really appreciate it. I appreciate the invite on, and I can't wait to get into some banter about all things health, wellness, food, mind, everything.
Yes, the psychology of food.
Yeah.
So tell us who you are and what your podcast is all about.
All right, fantastic. My name's Tiffany Cook, and I am based in Melbourne, Australia. So the other end of the world to you. But I got into fitness. So I'm 37. I got into fitness for the first time when I was 29, and that happened through a corporate boxing challenge.
Mhm.
So I went from a non-fitness and health person into an elite sport for 12 weeks. And then I moved in over the next few years. I transitioned into that health lifestyle. So I became a personal trainer and a boxing coach, and I learned a lot about food, and I experienced the most incredible evolution, I would say, personally, professionally, intimately, and physically through that process. So I got really passionate about it. This year, when COVID hit, I have gyms. My gyms shut down, everything changed. We got into in Victoria where I live, the world's longest and strictest lockdown. So we were locked down for months and months and months and months, allowed to leave our house for 1 hour a day. And yeah, so that challenge I overcome pretty quickly by just having a really strong mindset and focusing on what I could control.
Mhm.
And that eventually evolved pretty quickly into releasing this podcast. So I called it Rolling with the Punches. It was a bit of a play on words because I'm a boxer, but incidentally, it sort of embodies exactly what I did, which was roll with the punches when that happened.
I like that.
Yeah. The theme of my podcast is basically talking to people about how they have rolled with the punches and really just conversations which draw out people's mindsets and how they've overcome things and what is the gold in that. And through listening to that, it gives myself and my listeners, a real insight to things that they might resonate with or ideas that they might be able to apply to their own life. So yeah, that's me, and it's been amazing.
I'm glad. It's so nice that you've also started your podcasting journey in the midst of this crazy time.
Yeah.
But I think that it's really beneficial as well for your listeners, I'm sure, to learn all of these nutritional tips and how to be healthy and you really start to focus on your body and all of that stuff. So it's great to be able to have that insight as well and to have your podcast name Rolling with the Punches. That's so creative. I love it. Especially since you're
Yeah,
a
I loved it.
boxer. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the reason that it went from idea to product really quickly, because I'm one of those people that gets really excited about branding and things. And so when I came up with that name, I got so excited about what a great fit it was, is I blurted it out on social media before I had any idea how to get sound from a recording interface onto Apple iTunes. I was like, oh, I'll just figure it out. And so I did.
Yeah.
Which is really funny.
Yeah, I'm glad you figured it out, and I'm glad that you were able to release your podcast and continue on this journey because, I mean, time flies. And, like you're probably already almost hitting your 6-month mark, as I did earlier in October. And it's like, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane how much the time flies, especially during this quarantine time. But the good thing is that we're, sending a positive message and more so a healthy message too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it.
Now, what advice can you give others who want to learn a little bit about the psychology of food and what that even means?
All right, awesome. So I'm going to preface this by saying, definitely not a nutritionist. So don't have formal qualifications around nutrition, but also have a lot of knowledge around nutrition. I have studied epigenetics, and I've dived deep into that this year, and that is very much food and fitness and environment based. Talk about, I guess, my biggest learning, and if I can tell my sort of story about stepping into that boxing environment, because that's where the biggest rocks of learning and experience came from. And I'm a real information and data person as well. So I like it to experience something, but I also like to know the reasons behind it. And then that's where my knowledge always came from. Learn something, pick it apart, give it a try. It doesn't make sense. Yep, fantastic. Run with it. Teach it. I love to pass that knowledge on. So before I stepped into the boxing ring, I was working in corporate, and, standard working in corporate, I would go out on a Friday night, I'd have some drinks, I wasn't really into fitness, didn't really have a sport. I wasn't one of those people that really stuck at things or had any real consistency. But I raised my hand for some reason to get in the boxing ring and get punched in the face in front of a lot of people. So so I made that commitment, and it was the most petrifying 12 weeks of my life. You are faced with self-doubt, you are faced with fear, you're faced with uncertainty. Your mask, whatever mask you wear in life, falls away pretty quick in the boxing ring, and you see exactly who is underneath. And sometimes that's someone that, and for me, that was a person I'd never really met before. So it was quite powerful. When I got to the end of the 12 weeks, I got to the end of the 12 weeks, and I jumped in the ring and I won the fight. And before I jumped in the ring, I'd said to my family, I will never, ever, ever put myself through something like this again, because nothing from this point could be worth what I feel right now. That was the level of anxiety. I didn't sleep the night before. The anxiety hit me. I thought, what am I doing here? There's nothing that could be worth feeling like this. But I stepped in the ring and I had the fight, and I won the fight, which was great. But the feeling at the end of accomplishment was incredible. But the first penny that dropped was, wow, that was 6 minutes, or for me in that fight, it was 4 minutes. That was 4 minutes of work. The event and the result was a 4-minute experience. And the work and the discomfort and the consistency was spanned out non-stop over 12 weeks. 12 weeks of changing habits, changing behaviours, changing what I ate, assessing every daily choice that I made in every other area of my life to step in and have 6 minutes in the boxing ring. Now, for me, that was profound, and it might not be for everybody, but for me, that level of awareness around it, and I went, well, if there's anything that I want in life, then that thing is my 6 minutes, and the work and the lifestyle change and the dedication is 12 weeks to the ratio. Not obviously 12 weeks, but
right.
To the ratio of the 6 minutes. So for me, that was a big thing. And food and nutrition is, the other thing that came through for me was what I did in the boxing ring was, I call it like a metaphor. It's like having this, when they build a shopping center and they build that little model of what it's going to look like so everyone can see, and then you can do stuff and you see how it works and operates. That's how I feel. I feel like boxing is my model of my life, where I get to look at this physical environment, play with it, see what happens. Because my theory is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So whatever I could see play out in the boxing ring is how I approach life. Am I scared? Do I commit? Do I have self-care? Do I go after what I want? Do I back myself? Because when we box, we box on, and I know this is not yet really talking about food, but it will hopefully link in. But yeah, when I see those attributes in there, I know that they're happening out here. So it's about those choices we make. And food was a very big one for me. And the thing about food is it's physical, it's chemical, it's psychological, and it's emotional. And we have to dive in and develop self-awareness and listen to our body and understand ourself. Not Joe Blow that says this. It's not always the science. And I think the biggest misconception is that we take a look at body fat and how someone looks to assess whether whatever they're eating is good for us. And it's terrible, right? Because I've studied epigenetics this year, and there are 6 main health types, as they call them, 6 main sets of hormones, and then hundreds, if not thousands actually, of variations of that, which dictates whether someone should eat carbs or not eat carbs, should have fats or not have fats. So this is why we get so many variations between how one person responds to one diet and another person responds so differently, because it can be very genetic based, also performance based. So for example, I have a friend of mine who's keto crazy. He's a marathon, long distance runner. Keto, keto, keto. It's all he talks about. Keto is so great. You should do keto. Well, I'm a boxer. So that is a far, my body needs explosive power. So I need carbs. Keto is the opposite of what I need for my body to generate the optimal force and power and performance in my sport. So there's nutrition for lifestyle and health. There's nutrition for weight loss. There's nutrition for muscle gain. There's nutrition for sports performance. There's so many different aspects. And I think for the average person out there, it becomes really hard, because what do we want? What is it we want?
Right. Yeah.
Feel free to dig in and elaborate on any of that.
Yeah. No, I love the analogy that you use, like with boxing, and like how you kind of saw that as like the structure of it all, like the foundation, and how you wanted to really change your eating habits because of it. And just to make sure that you're putting as many good things in your body in order for you to perform well, and to continue having those eating habits, and like changing those like patterns that, like, were perhaps toxic for your body.
Absolutely.
And what do you say is the most important part of listening to our bodies as a whole?
Cool. So when it comes to, if we're talking nutrition, I think here's where it gets tricky, because I had this conversation. I've got a very, very good friend of mine who is a nutritionist, so we have a lot of nutrition chats. And she was having this conversation with me on one of my podcasts, actually. And she gave a big, long talk about this relationship with listening to our bodies. And I sort of brought up the fact that when we listen to our bodies, we're listening to two voices. There's the emotional voice that says, hey, like if I'm anxious or upset or I'm tired and I'm underslept and I'm overworked, my body goes, hey, I want you to feel good, right? Our body always asks us for what is best for us. It asks us for what it needs. But it gets its wires crossed. So it says, hey, I'm really tired. I'm really anxious. I know how to get dopamine. Go and have some sugar now, right? So we crave that sugar. And so that's a form of listening to our body, really. So when we do something, we are listening to our body, but we've got to understand where that listening is coming from and what's driving it. Right. Because we also, when we're deficient in something, if we're deficient in magnesium, we can crave chocolate. If we're deficient, when we're deficient in different things, we crave different foods. So it's really a process of awareness. Are we aware of what we're eating? Are we aware is that craving emotional or is it physiological? Is it a deficiency? So it's really just, I think about food diaries are great. Knowing what you're eating, understanding what you're eating. Are you eating enough? If we don't eat enough, we'll end up binging, right? Because the body needs energy, and it'll go quick energy. What can I have? What can I have? Trust me. Mine says Lindt all the time. Tiff, we need Lindt. Go get the Lindt chocolate.
That's hilarious.
I'm light-bodied. I know where you're at here.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that we have to track what we eat, and just make sure that we're writing down what exactly we're taking in, and that way we can get to know our bodies and how it's responding. Because there was
Track
a point.
And measure.
Yeah.
Track and measure. Yeah.
That's so important. And I didn't even know how important it was until I started applying it in my own life. I kept seeing that I was constantly tired. I was drained in energy. Literally, the moment I woke up, I just like couldn't wait for nap time, like, because I always needed a nap in between. And it was crazy how just changing what I ate affected me and gave me that boost of energy the whole day. And that's
Yeah,
just breakfast and lunch.
absolutely.
And I was
Yeah.
like, this is amazing. I'm going to drink more water more often, like eat a banana here and there, like, and then suddenly I became excited about eating healthier because it was something so different and something that of course I was not used to before. But it's so
Yeah.
important to be able to see how our body is feeling and, like track that, to have that as a record to see what we need to change.
Yeah, and that brings to mind another really important thing, and this is something I experienced, especially it's really easy to be on track with something when you have a goal greater than just being unhappy with how you look. If you're just unhappy with how you look, it's really hard to
Mhm.
stick to something. So when you've got a sport like high performance sport like boxing, you watch a boxer, and I've got friends in boxing, and often it can be a shitty sport for this, but it's a sport where, sorry if you don't swear on the podcast.
No, you're fine. No,
I'm
you're fine.
shocked. I'm shocking at it. So if anyone checks out mine, brace yourself. But there's a lot of women, we get into boxing. Boxing's a weight derived sport. So generally, you want to be at the lower end or the top end of as lower body weight category as you can. Now, fortunately, when I started in boxing, I was always at a stable weight. I was very lean. I was in a category where I was pretty much, and I didn't fluctuate much. I was like, well, I'm not going to drop any weight. Like, I'm happy with where I am. I'm quite, I perform quite well here. There's other boxers that can get, like always never happy with the weight they're at and wanting to lose weight, but stay the same. But the funny thing is, when they had a competition and they had to get down to weight every time they got there, So that's
Wow.
mental, right? So physically you can get there if the goal is big enough. Obviously they're not doing great things to get there, and then they bounce back. But then, so this is where we have to look. So that track and measure we talked about before, really important. But what's equally important is making sure that doesn't become an obsession. So track and measure, get awareness, understand it, and then almost let it go a little bit. Come back to it when you need to. I'm not a fan of counting calories. I hate macros. I don't train anyone that comes and says, what macros should I add? I don't know. Like, listen to your body. I'm not here to talk about your macros or count how many individual calories you're eating.
Right, yeah.
I think that loses that sense of, what food is for, and and listening to our bodies. We start looking at data. As soon as you look at data and you process on that level, you're losing the processing on the internal level, I think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's just important to have that knowledge to begin with, to be able to understand what
Yes.
exactly it is that you need.
Yeah. When I've with my friend who's a nutritionist, she years ago, I wanted to move up a weight division, and I said to her, I'd like to move up a weight division so I'm heavier, but I'd like to make sure that I do it the right way so that I'm gaining the right weight and I perform well. And I wrote my very first food diary for her, and I'm very, I have great knowledge around food. I ate very well, but it was quite funny because she got my very, very detailed, probably overly detailed food diary. And the first thing she said, she was like, it's so, and I go, erratic? She's like, yes. And it was also a direct reflection of my energy. So I was making these choices, and they were healthy choices of the same thing. So things like protein balls with dates, like with good sugars in them, but healthy choices of junky food. So things that essentially made my energy levels peak and trough. So I was always finding that I would be hypo and then crash, and hypo and then crash, and then have terrible sleep, and because my energy systems were like this. And it's funny because if another time, maybe it was probably a couple of years later, when I said, hey, I might just get a check-in on how I'm eating and how I'm performing and see what you think, because I feel like I'm falling off the rails. She goes, okay, do me a food diary. 2 days into that food diary, I didn't even need to see her, because when you write something down, all of a sudden you see the pattern. So a vast majority of the time, writing that food, if you know your information and you have a fairly good handle on what you should be eating and when and how and where you might be going wrong, the moment you write that down, boom, you've solved most of your problems already.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, once we get, a good base of information and understanding and self-awareness, We don't need someone to tell us how many peas and carrots to eat.
Yeah.
Really?
But you're right. We do need that self-awareness, because I think
Yeah.
that like if we make a bad choice, which, my eating habits were terrible before. But, I never really sat down and thought about what I was actually eating and how it could be affecting me. I was just like, what is going on? Like, am I okay? I'm thinking it's more on an anxiety level, mental level versus actually a physiological level. So
Yeah.
that's so interesting that, like, if you just sit down, write it down, or just at least know exactly what you're taking in, like, the answer is right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, just getting that info. I do a lot of business
Mhm.
networking, and one of the first things I noticed that people would say in front of me would sit down at a cafe for breakfast, because I have these breakfast networking meetings, and the amount of people that sit down and go, look at the menu and go, I'm going to be healthy today. I'm going to have the bircher. And I mean, Cafe Bircher is just a sugar bomb. And not only
Oh,
that, it's normally served in a huge bowl. There would probably likely be 1,000 plus calories
wow.
in a bowl of Cafe Bircher, a big bowl of Bircher, because Bircher, it only takes quite a small amount of it to give you a lot of calories and a lot of energy. So,
Mhm,
they're choosing sugar in an enormous quantity, but they're
mhm,
understanding, and this is like not a insult to anybody. It's the fact that we don't understand anymore what's healthy or what's
mhm.
vegan. Oh, vegan, I'm going to go vegan because vegan must be healthy. Vegan's
Right.
not healthy. Like vegans, for a lot of people, going vegan poses a lot of problems.
Mhm.
Vegan is more an ethical choice. But often when if we're in a cafe and we're choosing breakfast, we don't have much awareness around us, and we see vegan written on something, and we associate that with that's some sort of a health benefit because it's put out there as a positive thing, or it's
Right.
vegan, so I'll have that. So
Mhm.
it's just all those messaging. There's a lot of misinformation. It's a really tricky landscape.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky to be able to understand, what is actually good for us
Yeah,
versus like what appears to be.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that actually brings me to my next point. Like, how would you necessarily describe how our body reacts physiologically to our eating habits? And what can we do to trick our brain into making healthier choices more often?
Yeah, I love this question. So, and this is something I've experienced a lot because I can very quickly, me and sugar, we can be the best of friends. I'm a little chocoholic. So, and if I allow that to start happening, I'll start quickly making the choices. My body will start asking for it, and it'll become you know, after every meal, all of a sudden I'm looking around, where's the chocolate? Um, but I guess when you start, we've got a bit of a saying, which is count nutrients, not calories. So that for me, that's number one. One thing that we tend to do when we overeat or we eat bad food and we label it and then we feel guilty about ourselves and then we're like, oh, I have to rectify that. I just won't eat tomorrow, or I just won't, then we
Mhm.
deprive ourselves. Or you go out for lunch and you eat a whole bunch of junk, and then in the afternoon you have an ice cream, and then at the end of the day, like, I've eaten too much, I won't have dinner. But you've
Right.
had no vegetables and you've had no. So one of the best practices I adopted is, it doesn't matter how much, if I've overeaten calories, that's fine, but have I still eaten my nutrients? Like, fine, I'll have a big bowl of vegetables tonight for dinner, right? Because
Mhm.
I've overdone my calories and I've had a lot of junk. But what I haven't had, especially as someone who performs in sport, but not just sport, it affects our cognitive performance. It affects our emotions.
Mhm.
So, get the nutrients in. Look at nutrients. When our body's used to having them, it's like water. Get up in the morning, and often we're dehydrated, and often our body will give us a message that we're hungry.
Mhm.
We're actually thirsty. So if we're dehydrated, our body wants water. There's a lot of water in food, so the body's like, we're hungry. Then we get our water. If I get up in the morning and I drink a massive glass of water, I'll drink water all day and I'll stay hydrated because I've given my body that, and then it knows it and it wants more. That's the
Right.
same I find with my choices of nutrition. When I set a good standard and have a few days sticking to that, and I have a lot of, and my choices are nutrients and vegetables, and I wrap my mind around that,
Mhm.
That's what I crave. Then if someone comes in with a big slice of cake and goes, do you want this? I'm like, actually, I don't, because my body knows how good I feel after this nutritious food.
Yes.
Whereas if I am just having whatever and saying yes and, picking at cakes and letting myself continually consume those lower value foods, lower nutrient foods, then it's harder to say no.
Mhm.
So we call it willpower. Part of it's willpower, but part of it's also just our physiology asking for what it knows makes it feel good. And it's
Mhm.
either going to feel good from that emotional clutch that we give it or from a great physiological chemical clutch.
Mhm.
Serotonin is produced in the gut. It comes from our food, right? So if we want to be happy, we got to look after our gut health and what we're putting in our body. Does that
Right.
answer your question? I get
Yes.
ranty, don't
No,
I?
I love it. It's perfect because I'm so happy that you brought up gut health because I literally learned about it recently. My sister told me about it because when I was like really bad with energy, I was so tired all the time and I wasn't really evaluating what I was eating. She told me about how gut health is like the root of everything and we have to take care of it ourselves and our body and our gut. And I'm like, what? What is that? And she started introducing me to probiotics. So now every morning I have my probiotics, I have my vitamins, and it's like it's crazy. I don't know if it's a combination of that or like the food choices or a little bit of everything, but like
Yeah.
now I feel great. It's like a completely different person. So it's crazy how like powerful just an alter of a decision and trying to hold yourself back from all the foods that that can really make you crave it. It's good to kind of like step away from your cravings for a little bit and then just like really focus on what is actually good for you.
Yeah, one of the most powerful pieces of advice one of the most powerful things that Alison, my nutritionist friend, said to me once when I'd given her a food diary and I was making all these great choices. So I was working in sales at the time, I was working on the road, and I remember this beautiful cafe that had the most amazing salads, like the most amazing superfood salads you could lay your eyes on. So I gave her this food diary and I'd done a lot of cooking and I'd done a lot of meal preps, but I also had a lot of these brilliant salads. So I was proud as punch, like they've got quinoa and goji berries and all vegetables and they're so healthy. I'm like, look at this stuff. She's going to be so proud of me. And she sat down and she circled every meal on that list that she was happy with. And I was like, hang on, what about this superfood salad? What about this green salad? What about this? And she goes, you've outsourced your self-care. You've outsourced that to somebody else now. So even and so there's the one level she's like, you don't know what they're putting in the dressings. Like they taste better because there's dressings and there's you don't know what they're putting inside the dressings of that to make that healthy or not healthy. But also, and I love this really connected with me, this idea of the subconscious message to yourself when you take ownership in preparing your own food because you care about your own well-being and because it's a priority rather than just rushing
Mhm.
and choosing this. And I'm really, I'm one of those people that's the power of your thoughts and your subconscious thoughts especially, and that's so almost links in with that idea around the boxing analogy where
Mhm.
what's happening, because there's beliefs and thoughts and stories that are happening in the back of our mind that we have got no awareness of. Like we don't walk around
Mhm.
and choose to have low self-esteem or these weird subconscious beliefs about ourselves, but they're there. So we have to know about them. And that was, for me, it was like, what is behind me not wanting to give myself the time
Mhm.
to prepare something that is it's like number one in my mental, my emotional, my physical health.
Right.
Especially because I'm in an elite sport, but also just as a human being. Like this is
Mhm.
the number one thing that can affect my performance, my happiness, my emotions, and
Mhm.
yet I'm not giving it any time. Well, that doesn't really align, does it? It's a lot congruent. And I loved that. I loved that message and it stuck with me for years.
Yeah. Yeah, the subconscious mind is powerful because you never know what's there, and you don't really know what beliefs you have or why you have it,
Yeah.
until like you actually start digging deeper and deeper. But it's crazy because that, like, our subconscious mind is like literally gets all the information in like milliseconds, and it stores everything, and it makes us who we are.
Yeah.
So like, if we, like you said, if we're like running low on self-esteem, low energy, all those choices that we like, that we believe, it kind of is the root cause of why we're feeling the way we are.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
yeah.
talk about positive affirmations, and how
Mhm,
powerful they are to say these things to yourself. So for me, it became, and it wasn't deliberate. It wasn't like, oh, I'll do this and it'll become this. But I felt this shift where every time I now take the time, or feel like I was almost going to rush and get a takeaway or do whatever, but then I chose to sit down and cook something, or go all out in a better direction.
mhm,
I recognize that I've made this choice, and it's like the most powerful affirmation to myself. Right
mhm.
in the moment, I'm like, "That's right. Oh wow, look!" I almost hear myself listening to myself, telling me I'm worth it, telling me I care, telling me health is priority, and that I've just made a great choice. And it's the effect of that is incredible, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, our body really thanks us for those choices, and having the ability and the will, our willpower to actually like, move forward with that healthy choice versus like, our guilty pleasures. It means everything. And
Yeah,
it does take a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of like mental like commitment, but it really is what we're saying about ourselves, what we're saying about our bodies, and also like the way we talk about the food that we're eating, and how, if it's a healthier choice, maybe we can just be more positive about it and just like feel a lot better, so that way the next time around we'll be more likely to choose the healthier option.
yeah, yeah.
And what do you recommend people do to cut out behaviors that don't serve them?
All
Like,
right, number one, self-awareness. So let's put an example in place. Normally, it's eating crap, isn't
mhm.
it?
Yeah.
So I guess the power of the pause is another concept I really love. So pause, and before we have something, have something to eat, or do that thing, that habit we want to break,
Mhm.
ask ourselves if we really want it. It's checking in and seeing, where's this coming? Is this coming from an emotional place? What is this, just a habit? Is this, what is going on that makes me want to reach for that slice of cake or that chocky bicky?
Mhm.
So I think number one, check in with your emotions and really try and figure out where that's coming from, and pause, go and do something. So, taking a quick walk. You need to do, so habits, there's a whole bunch of science around habits.
Mhm.
They are always driven from a cue which is followed by a behavior which develops into a habit. So that cue might be, so for me, when I said before, when I can get really on chocolate, my cue can be, once I've eaten them, I am sweet, I got no cravings, and then I have something, I'll have my meal, and then all of a sudden, the last few nights I've had a bit of chocolate after that meal. And then that habit is formed.
Mhm.
Easiest way to break that habit is you need to replace it with a different behavior, because you're always going to have the cue. That cue is going to be there. So now that behavior has to change.
Mhm.
So you can break the habit. So pausing, creating a new habit, and writing down your food diary. That
Yeah.
they're my biggest rocks. I think everyone can benefit from that.
Yeah. In my case, I think that like my biggest guilty pleasure was drinking chocolate milk every single morning. And I'm 24, and I've literally drank chocolate milk every single day. Like, even if
Yeah.
I'm going out to eat at a restaurant, I'm like, well, for breakfast, of course. Um, I order it all the time. And
Yep.
my family always poked fun at me. And then it wasn't until like I was so low in energy and my sister's like, "It's the milk. You've been drinking chocolate milk forever." And I'm like, "Really? I don't like why would I change that?" I really disliked the fact that I could possibly never drink it again, but then changing it, like replacing that habit with thinking like, "Okay, how can I get excited about breakfast again?" Like now knowing I can't have my favorite beverage, like what can I drink instead that will
Yeah,
make me look forward to it? And then now I can just say that I've been drinking like smoothies or like the natural juices that like are all made of fruit, and it is really like a boost in my morning. And I've
yeah,
been like replacing everything I've been eating for breakfast and lunch. Dinner not so much, but um I just made it a priority for those two since they were the most unhealthy
yeah,
for me. And it's crazy because now because I replaced it, and for the period of time that it's been, I think that it doesn't even come across my mind anymore. Like
exactly.
I no longer crave it as much. And now, like, thinking back to, like, the possibility of having chocolate milk, even just like for a little bit, just to splurge, it's like, but why? I'm doing
Yeah,
so well. And it's kind of
yeah.
sad.
It kind of disappears. It's not there anymore. But the other thing is starting the day right, So if
Yeah.
you're starting the day with chocolate milk, or for me, it's definitely true. If I start the day really well, I have this high drive to not want to screw that up. And we are sort of born to that's where this whole self-sabotage thing comes in, where we have a bad day and we're like, oh, the day's ruined now. Oh, I've had junk now. I may as well just eat crap for the rest of the day and I'll start
Mhm.
tomorrow. And then that can roll into a week and a month and a year, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I think especially starting the day right and planning, get rid of the foods in your house that are shit, get rid of the things that are
Yeah.
gonna pull you undone.
Yeah.
We get decision fatigue, so take the decisions out of the equation and have a plan and have it prepared so that it's easy. So you just walk in and you don't have to decide anymore.
Mhm.
Might not like the choice, right? But if
Right.
you've got no chocolate milk in the fridge, but you have got a NutriBullet set up and you've already set all of your ingredients there ready to go, the
Mhm.
decision's already made. You don't have to come out to the kitchen and go, oh, well, I normally have a chocolate milk. Now what will I do? And then you'll be like, oh, bugger, today I can't be bothered. I'll just get chocolate milk. You've already made the plan. So now the
Right.
behaviors, you don't have to make a decision anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Just creating a plan and sticking to it, and not, you know, going into the endless cycle, the vicious cycle of like, "You know what? I already messed up today, so why not
Yeah.
mess up the rest of the day?" Because it really has an impact. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing how one choice can really impact your whole entire day. Even like the first day I decided not to, I was already feeling the benefits, and then replaced it with healthier eating options, and then it's like, I don't think I can ever turn back. It's like it's already instilled in me, and
Yeah.
I've made it a habit, so it's great to be able to have that to look forward to, like a new healthier option.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And how can someone find a balance where they are still craving their guilty pleasure food choice, but can still choose to eat healthy at the same time?
Yeah, mate, super important. So 80-20 rule, pick your 20%,
Mhm.
right? So, and I did that very early on. I did that before I even really knew much about nutrition, but I love chocolate,
Mhm.
as you've probably gathered. And, that's something I won't give up. But when I choose to have something that's not great for me, I tell you what, geez, it's something I love. I
Mhm.
don't do chips. I don't eat a lot of bread. I don't really do cakes. I don't do lollies.
Mhm.
I don't do burgers. I don't even really do pasta, right? Because my idea, and this is just me, my idea is wrapped around when I have a plate of food in front of me, how many colors, how many nutrients, and to me, like a big bowl of pasta with not much in it's really ripping myself off all of the natural nutrients that are in things like vegetables and salads and lean meats.
Mhm.
So often, and we all get self-critical, like often I'll look at how much I indulge in chocolate and I'll be like, oh, I'm actually, my diet's terrible. But then when I
Mhm.
realize what my diet looks like in comparison to everyone else, but it doesn't feel like it's not a diet. I've never done a diet, but the way that when I say the term diet, I mean the way that I eat. When I look at that in comparison to how a lot of other people eat, I'm like, geez, my diet's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it allows me that I can sit there and inhale a block of chocolate and know that it's not an issue, right? Because I'm getting my nutrients everywhere else. And, I don't have to deprive myself of anything because I'm making so many excellent choices elsewhere. I'm not one for cut everything out. When you should cut everything out, or everything of one thing, cut something out completely if you can't have self-control. So I'm a bit like that with chocolate, so I always buy the small, I don't have an amount of it in my house that I can't just, because once it's there and it's open, I'm probably just going to eat it all. So I monitor that, and I have enough so that I can have a little bit and I have my boundaries around it. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being able to get rid of the risks of actually, getting a chocolate bar or getting a hold of that, but then at the same time, treating yourself for eating healthy and still eating what you'd like, but then also with that control, like knowing that, okay, like a chocolate won't kill me, or having this food choice won't, break everything I'm doing, because at the end of the day I'm doing as best as I can.
Yeah, and just as importantly, enjoy it. Oh God, if it's associated with guilt, and stop, be present. Like, the worst thing I can often do is have a little bit of chocolate here, and I'm busy working, I'm doing stuff, and I'm going like this, I'm doing stuff, and then I look down and I'm like, where'd my chocolate go, right?
Yeah.
What a rip-off, right? I've inhaled it. So choose it, stop, enjoy every moment of it, and then let it go, because it's been scientifically proven that if we wrap guilt and all this negativity and we feel bad, that's even more detrimental to our physiology and our psychology, obviously. So make a choice, be okay with it, and then wholeheartedly enjoy it.
Yeah. I think I should treat myself tonight.
You can have a chalky milk tonight.
I know, yes. Thank you. Now I don't have to feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Why not? Now, what would you say your thoughts are about dieting? I know you mentioned a little bit about the keto diet earlier in the episode. Like, how have your views kind of changed?
Yeah, so don't love the term diet. It's a lifestyle choice. It's choices. We make choices every single day. The minute you call it a diet, the minute it's got an end date. The thing is, it can take us 10 years. Like, our body is a reflection of our daily choices every single day. It's a reflection of our lifestyle choices. When we wake up one day and go, not happy with how I look and feel, I want to be different, or we want to be different tomorrow. So we want to do something different for 30 days, wake up okay, and then think that we can switch back into the exact choices that got us to where we currently are. So it's this idea around, it's not change small things, really small things consistently. And then when you're okay with that, when that's now no longer hard to choose, it's a new normal. Introduce a new normal. So it might be, what? One of the first things I ever cut out was soft drink. I don't even drink diet soft drink, nothing. So the only carbonated drinks that I'll have are kombucha or soda water. So cutting out something like that and then going, all right, now that's comfortable. It's not even an option now. If someone offered, if I'm at somebody's event and they offer me a glass of Coke, I'm like it's not to the point, because I'm around fitness people a lot, sports people, and in the fitness industry, and I find it's quite funny to me. I did a podcast with someone recently, and he was picking up a can of Coke, and I was like, who drinks Coke? Like, who drinks soft drink with, because it's just so out of my world now. It'd be like me hanging out with people and someone lights up a cigarette and I'm like, do people still smoke? It's just not part of my world.
Right. Yeah. And you're not used to it, which in a way it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's
small changes, be consistent, let them drop, be kind to yourself, but be hard. Like, it's not going to not going to be comfortable. Beating yourself up over it's not going to get you any further.
Right. And I like
So
that you
then,
also
yeah,
I like that you mentioned that a diet, the term dieting, already puts like an expiration date,
yeah,
and it's true. Like it's like,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to diet for the rest of the month in order to rock my swimsuit. And it's like, but what about after? You're just going
It,
to go back and it's an endless cycle again. So,
exactly.
it's a
You
and
know,
that
we often associate a diet with lack, whether it's taking out a particular group or whether it's taking out calories. And what I see in the fitness industry a lot is we all have great results when we eat less and move more.
Mhm.
And then that will plateau. And then what people generally do is eat less, move more, eat less, move more, eat less, move more. And then the body goes the other way. It starts to hold on to body weight. We might even gain body weight because we've raised our cortisol levels. We've ruined our hormone profile. And
Mhm.
now our body's doing the opposite because it's in a bit of a state of distress. And we can't understand why we're not getting results anymore. I'm working so hard. I'm hardly eating anything. Well, exactly. If you sat down and you doubled your food right now, given it being the right food, you'd probably put on muscle and you'd drop some fat and you'd have a change. But so it's wrapping our minds around what is the story, what is reality, measuring where we're at, and knowing that we're doing the right things for the results that we want to achieve.
Right. That's so true. Now, what is the biggest takeaway you hope someone who wants to change their eating habits to learn from you in this episode?
Do your own research and have your own self-awareness. So
Mhm.
take away what you learned from me, take away what you learned from everybody. Take it in, research it yourself, and make your own decision. Because guess what? Everybody, even professionals that are fully trained in
Mhm.
everything they're trained in, they're just making an educated guess. An
Right.
educated guess. I use a platform now for health coaching, which actually gives me an epigenetic profile of people. So through that system, it knows what someone should eat, even knows what time someone should eat. So that could tell you. But even nutritionists are giving you the best guess, and then they test and measure. We give an educated guess. This is what with all the knowledge I have, this is what I believe. And then we'll measure it, and then we might have to change it. And it's
Mhm.
the same with fitness. It's the same with everything. But yeah, so it's get self-awareness, be compassionate with yourself, make sure you have the knowledge. You've got to learn the knowledge. Don't just ask someone and keep ticking the box without an understanding, because you want to start checking in with your body and embodying those choices that you make.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It's so important for all of us to have that understanding and that
Yeah.
it varies by person. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
And what are some of the cookbooks, if you've used any or seen any, that have helped you find tasty recipes that make eating fun?
Well, I'm going to say I haven't because I'm not a
Okay.
cookbook person. But when I work with Alison, she is my nutritionist that I use when I do coaching programs or group
Mhm.
programs with people. And her recipes are always the biggest hit. She is someone that real food, it's simple and it's delicious. So the feedback I get from my clients is, wow, this meal plan, it's super simple. It's not, you're not measuring out all these crap. She makes it super simple. She has leftovers as dishes the next day at all, and it's
Mhm.
delicious. So her business is Alimentary Nutrition. So if you look her up, alimentary.com.au on the internet, you'll see
Mhm.
her, and she's got some really good recipes on there, but they're just simple and they're delicious.
Yes, yay. I'm excited to look at them and see what I can fix up.
Yeah, good little snacks too. Good little snacks.
Yes. So, Tiffany, where can everyone find you?
Oh, I am everywhere. So if my podcast is Roll with the Punches, ROLL, Roll with the Punches. I have an Instagram, Roll with the Punches _podcast. My own Instagram is Tiffany and Co. That's TIFFANEE and Co. www.rollwiththepunches.com.au. And I'm on LinkedIn, Tiffany Cook.
Nice.
I think that wraps it up.
I'll definitely include all the links down below, so don't even worry. I'll make sure
Awesome.
to include all of that that way so my listeners can be able to reference you moving forward and hopefully listen to your podcast as well.
Thank you so much, Mayra. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on my podcast. I'm so happy that I was able to have you and learn so much about the healthy eating choices and all about the psychology of food because I think it really helped expand my knowledge a lot.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thanks heaps.
Yes, thank you. So, everyone, I really hope this podcast made you smile at least once. Stay tuned for more advice and positivity next Friday. As always, it's Myra. I hope you guys have such a beautiful day and, most importantly, have something to take away from this episode and the psychology of food because we all know that it varies by person and everything's different. But if you can make eating healthy fun, certainly do that because it will really change your life for the better and your body will start craving healthier food options. Bye.